Hello everyone, good day to you wherever you are in the world, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to this webinar on using video in ELT from Sensations English. I'm Adam, the ELT specialist at Sensations English, and today we are delighted to have with us Sophia Mavridi, who will be sharing her wisdom on engaging students through asynchronous video-based lessons. Just a reminder that if you're watching this webinar live, a CPD certificate will be sent to you via email 24 hours after the webinar has finished. If you're watching the recording, please make your own note of your professional development activity. The webinar will last an hour and will include time for questions at the end of Sophia's talk. Please write your questions in the Q&A box. The Q&A button appears when you move your mouse to the bottom of the Zoom window. If someone has already written the same question, you can click the thumbs up button next to that question, and that moves the question higher up the list rather than writing it again. And if you need help during the webinar at any time, please contact me in the chat box. Sensations English is focused on helping teachers develop their skills, and we are delighted to be hosting our first webinar series using video in ELT. We hope this will expand how you use video with your classes. We are delighted to offer teachers hundreds of video resources, all graded at 5 levels and all with ready-made learning activities, making video accessible to all learners and hassle-free for teachers. Every week we create 3 fresh 5-level resources to give you the most up-to-date content to use with all your learners. Our Sensations English Teachers Edition includes logins for all your students and a digital gradebook, which lets you organize your students into classes, set tasks and monitor them live, and review your learners' progress over time. To celebrate our webinar series, we're offering 50% discount on the Sensations English Teachers Edition if you sign up during May, and access to a special 3-week CPD program starting on Monday, 31st of May. To get this great offer, just go to the link on screen and in the chat to sign up. The CPD program uses a reflective practice approach and focuses on developing your video and digital teaching practice. It's structured around small daily tasks which encourage teachers to reflect on their experiences and enrich their perspectives. Each day builds on the last, starting with some basics to get a solid grounding before moving on to more advanced concepts. There's a live induction session in Zoom and a live midway development session in Zoom to explore your experiences on the program with other teachers. All of these use Sensations English activities as a common grounding. So now, to tell you a little more about our today's speaker, Sophia is a digital learning specialist and lecturer in English language teaching at De Montfort University, Leicester. She has a strong theoretical background and practical background in technology and enhancing language learning, and uses this knowledge to support institutions and teachers worldwide to integrate technology in a pedagogically sound way. You can find out more about Sophia at Digital Pedagogy on the internet. Sophia, thanks very much for being here today. It's over to you.
Thank you so much, Adam. Let me just set up my slides.
How are you today, Sophia?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great.
Thank you. And good to see everyone. Sorry, yes. So already I have another monitor opposite because I want to see how the slides look for you. So hello, everybody. It's fantastic to be here today. It is a cloudy and rainy day in Leicester, and I saw that you're coming from all around the world. So what's the weather like where you are? Good morning, Abby. Ecuador, oh, beautiful weather. Chile, sunny, awful, boiling, sunny in Tunisia, sunny, very hot. 30 Celsius. Okay, sunny in Mexico, cold, Argentina, sunny and cool. So fantastic, excellent. So carry on and I will catch up in a bit. So many thanks to Adam for the invitation. I'm going to talk about encouraging students through asynchronous video-based lessons, a topic that I consider very important in online teaching, but also topical in the era of COVID-19, when almost everything moved online. We all know that the shift was rather quick. And while there have been incredible opportunities, there have also been difficulties, struggles, challenges. We all know that. And many of these issues had to do with how courses were designed and what support teachers had. So moving online, I mean, so now that we move on to another phase, hopefully out of COVID, how can we take advantage of online pedagogies to use video as a resource in a pedagogically sound way, so an engaging way. So this is what this session is going to be about. And Adam has introduced me already, so thank you very much, Adam. I'm not going to say much about me, just to say that digital learning has been my specialism for years, long before the pandemic. And I'm really glad that I'm here to share this knowledge with you all. So, okay, let's have a look at what I'm going to be talking about. Just to say that you're free to take pictures of the slides, to take pictures of me, to tweet, to Instagram, and these are my Twitter and Instagram handles. So, okay, so just a short overview. This talk is going to have 3 parts. And part 1, we are going to talk a little bit about the use of video and the pedagogy of asynchronous learning, because we said asynchronous learning. What is this? Many people hear this word asynchronous and they think it's something very, very complicated and difficult. So we're going to define it, and we're going, of course, to look at the pedagogy. And part 2, we're going to look at designing asynchronous video tasks. And then in part 3, I'm going to use Sensation English as a showcase. And then we are going to see how we can follow up a video-based lesson, always considering the pedagogy first. So, okay. So 5 years ago, I'm moving the chat here. Yes. So 5 years ago, Zuckerberg, Mr. Facebook, we all know him, coined the phrase video first, and predicted that in a few years, the vast majority of content that people would consume online would be video. And he was right. So, yeah, so he was right. So motion seems to be the new filter. Video is gaining momentum. It's growing fast. And the truth is that our brains love video because it brings together 3 things that catch our attention like nothing else: motion, image, and sound. All 3 features play a significant role in getting a message across. All 3 features. And students say it is less boring too. So only 4 years ago, before the pandemic and the boost of online learning as we know it now, statistics confirmed that video dominated over other media. And we can see this everywhere. People, and especially young people, love video. Look at YouTube, look at TikTok, look at Instagram, for example. And in terms of its impact on language learning, my colleagues, Vicky and Cecilia, who gave sessions before me in this series, they have already talked about the advantages of using video over other media for language learning. So it is a great resource. But the question is, there is a question, how can we use this great resource for asynchronous learning, complementing our live classes, either our face-to-face classes or our Zoom classes, our online synchronous classes? So, but to answer this question, as I said previously, we first need to ask, what do we mean by asynchronous learning? So over to you. What is asynchronous learning? Exactly, Natasha. Visually understanding is easier for students. Not at the real time of the lesson. Thank you, Marina. Exactly. So what is asynchronous learning? Taking place online, but not at the same time of delivery. Thank you. Learning done before, yeah, learning taking place in different times. You are amazing. Yes. So learning, asynchronous learning is learning taking place not at the same time, as you very, very well said. You need a platform, an LMS, a learning management system. It can be a Moodle, it can be Google Classroom, Edmodo, where you post materials, including videos and activities, not only videos, other tasks as well, for students to work asynchronously, not at the same time. So students work on their own schedule, but as I will say in a bit, it is not just assigning homework. Okay, so it is not just homework. I'm saying just, not because homework is not important. It is very, very important, and it has other pedagogical considerations. But many teachers confuse asynchronous learning with homework, and today we're going to see the differences. So we're going to take a look at some pedagogical considerations and also theories, but don't worry, it's not going to be boring, that online learning designers use to design successful asynchronous learning. And the idea here is for us to understand what the pedagogy tells us about how people learn online and how the use of video resources, how we can use video resources to create engaging language experiences for our students. So, first of all, we have embodiment. That's a very, very big concept in online learning. I hear very often teachers talking about the physical distance that exists, the physical distance that exists when we teach online, the loss of physical world, and that it creates certain issues when we teach online. And I will not disagree with that. There are certain things that we can do better when we are physically together, but there are other things that we can do equally well or even better when we are not together physically and at the same time. So the more we try to compensate for the loss of, embodiment, the more the experience we create will be second best, always. So it is not better, it is not worse, it is different, and we need to engage people differently. So I would say that it is the pedagogical distance that hinders people from learning online, not the physical distance. Of course, there are preferences, no doubt about that. I'm not saying that everyone likes to learn, likes asynchronous learning or online learning. So this is for sure. So I would say that embodiment can facilitate certain language pedagogical applications, for example, kinesthetic activities. Yes, of course, embodiment is number one. Mingling around, of course, no doubt about that. But on the other hand, the activities that we will talk about today are better suited for the online modality. So I agree with the author here that embodiment is a powerful but false proxy for engagement. So it makes more sense to forget about the lack of embodiment and focus on presence, online presence. This applies to the live class, of course, but especially to the asynchronous class and the materials that we use when we teach online. Can you hear me? Yes, embodiment, physically present. Yes, exactly. The ability to see physically the other person. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, fantastic. Excellent. So, presence then. So, what do we mean by presence? In fact, there are three presences, three dimensions of presence, which are interdependent. One depends on the other. And every online course every good online course should have them. And these are cognitive presence, teaching presence, and social presence. So people might say, online learning is not effective. And then I ask them, have the courses been designed according to how people learn online? Are these presences in place? Or do we just do what we would do in the face-to-face classroom, only online, and expect people to learn? So these are important questions that we should be asking. So while I'm talking about these presences, think about how the materials that we create or use online can be designed with these presences in place. And then we will link all that to the use of video. So, cognitive presence. If you see me looking, straight ahead, this is because I have another monitor and I see the slides, how they look for you. So, cognitive presence. It is when students create knowledge and meaning through thinking, when they try to solve a problem, when they put the solutions in action. So our teaching and materials and technologies should be aiming at creating this cognitive presence. If all we give students is fill in the gaps exercises and multiple choice, then this cognitive presence struggles. I'm not saying that multiple choices are not fantastic exercises. They are. But we need something extra to create this cognitive presence. We need a problem, to give students a problem or an issue that they will need to solve to find a solution. So we will talk about that later on as well. So teaching presence, this is us. So teaching presence refers to the role of a teacher or the instructional materials or a peer, anything that will assist learning. For example, when learning is broken up into small steps online, a good instructional video maximizes teaching presence in the asynchronous class. So the asynchronous, we might not be there as teachers, but the use of materials, the materials that we have chosen or created represent the teaching presence. Teaching presence. So social presence, I love social presence. It refers to the social atmosphere in a learning environment, in a learning community. It also refers to the degree to which a person perceives themselves as real. Because don't forget that our communication is mediated via a computer. So how can we establish social presence, especially when the learning is asynchronous? we will see that in a bit. So what do all these theories and principles mean in practice? How can we use these important principles and build engaging online experiences? And why should we do it asynchronously? So that's another question. Why asynchronously? So online learning design usually relies on a well-designed asynchronous part, which is what didn't happen during COVID-19 and emergency remote teaching, I would say. And that's all understandable. In the move to online teaching without previous experience, of course, our initial instinct was to preserve contact hours by trying to replicate the face-to-face sessions. For example, I teach 4 hours a week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach 4 hours on a Zoom platform, and I'm going to replicate the same. So what this may look like in reality is an exhausting timetable for teachers and students, 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, I've heard 7 hours a day or more, which is not sustainable in the long run. Also, live classes are predominantly teacher-centered. Of course, we have breakout rooms, definitely, but in the main room, the center of the attention is the teacher. So it is not easy to bring in student-centered pedagogies in the synchronous live classroom. I'm not saying it is impossible. I'm saying it is challenging. Also, live classes, online classes, they need good bandwidth and good equipment. So students with poor connectivity and teachers with poor connectivity, all these that I do right now, 2 monitors, I'm sharing screen, these require reliable, fast bandwidth. Without it, the experience wouldn't be the same for me and for you. So if students also are in different time zones, here in the UK, for example, we teach students in China, in other countries in the world. So having classes synchronously also becomes problematic. And that's why we need the asynchronous bit. Of course, the asynchronous part takes time to design. It is not just 3 exercises that you give students to do for homework and call this asynchronous learning. It is not. So asynchronous learning counts as our hours of instruction. For example, 2 face-to-face or synchronously on Zoom, and 2 hours that count as hours of instruction if they are designed well, if it is structured well. So this is not a bank of materials either that students will do and choose from. A bank of materials is fantastic, don't get me wrong, for students to do independently, but it is not asynchronous learning. It is a bank of materials. So asynchronous learning is a series of tasks that students will need to do before their live class if we are having a blended learning approach. So we are telling them that I expect you to do this by a deadline. But there are 4 considerations that I would like to draw your attention to with regards to asynchronous learning. Asynchronous learning does not mean learning in isolation. It needs teacher presence, teacher support, and interaction with peers, only not at the same time. Exactly. Asynchronous learning needs planning. Exactly. My Uya, I don't know if I pronounce your name well. So how can we do that with the use of video? What elements will we need to integrate into our course design in order to promote, establish this social learning, this interaction? So think about that. Instructional design, a key because the activities that we ask students to do asynchronously need to be designed for asynchronous learning. We can't just use activities that were designed for face-to-face learning. Or we can use them, but we need to adapt them and make them more interactive. Simply because this is a different modality. For example, videos should be short. They should be interactive. Anything more than 5 minutes should be broken up. Otherwise, students are not going to be focusing. We can't just post the video and ask them to do a summary, for example, and call this asynchronous learning. Where is the interaction? Where is the presence? Forums, an essential ingredient of every asynchronous class. So forums are threaded discussions via text on Edmodo, Moodle, Google Classroom, WhatsApp, etc. So as a follow-up to a video activity, and we will see examples of that, ask students a question that will encourage them to engage in a discussion in a forum. Ask them to solve a problem that connects, relates to the video that they have seen, they have watched. So please have a look at this three-part post here that you can see, Mavridi 2020. You will be able to take pictures of the references, and I think the slides will also be available to you because it's a three-parter and it gives you more information about how we can set up and moderate forums. And now, group work. So group projects asynchronously, they can be challenging, I understand, to set up because students will need to arrange to meet outside of the classroom or outside of the online classroom, but they are very, very rewarding and so student-centered. So as a follow-up to a video lesson, we can ask students to work collaboratively to create a project or even their own video on the same or similar topic. So let me check the time. Excellent. Fantastic. So now we are moving on to the next part, designing asynchronous video tasks. So now, everything okay? Give me a smile. Give me, yes, okay, lots of smiles. Fantastic. Super, great. Okay, excellent. Let's go. So now the important question, how can we use all these principles? Because we talked about many things, but the question is, and what does this mean for my classroom? How am I going to use these principles to design engaging video tasks for asynchronous learning? So there are three main steps that I would like you to think about. And these are choosing a video, designing the task, and designing the follow-up after the video. So, of course, choosing the video, first we need to decide where to look for a video. We need to find the video. Where can we choose the video from? And of course, you can head to YouTube or TED Talks. There are fantastic resources there and free of charge. Or you can create your own videos, which can be, of course, very, very creative to create your own instructional videos, but very, very time consuming. And I know that all too well, because this is part of my job at the university. I create instructional videos as well. So it can be very, very time consuming. So choosing, it needs to be interesting. And now interesting is a very vague word, I would say, but you know what I mean. I mean meaningful for students. So what is interesting for my students might not be interesting for your students. So you are the best person to know what interesting for your students is, but it does need to be interesting for them. It needs to be age appropriate, especially when we teach young learners. The level, of course, should be appropriate. And I know about the authentic materials that we can use them with young learners as well, etc. But when it comes to linguistically have students to understand, of course, we can use videos to draw their attention, to introduce a topic. But when we want them to understand from the listening, if students cannot understand the 90% because my students are beginners and the video is, for example, for, I don't know, C1, C2 students, then they might feel disappointed, if you know what I mean. So I need to choose a video, authentic, but it needs to be level appropriate. Of course, authenticity is also important, and it needs to be short. If the original video is not short, then I need to break it up. I need to edit it. Now, moving on to designing the task, and I need your help here, as this part can be the most creative, but also the most time-consuming. In my experience, it requires good technical skills as well. So, what tasks can I design to complement my video? I want generic answers here, because of course, you haven't seen the video, we haven't watched any video right now, but what tasks can complement my video? Remember, they need to be interactive. I cannot post the video and ask students to watch only. Nobody is going to watch, or even if they do, this will help them with the language learning. It is the task that helps students to develop the language, not the video. We use the video as a prompt. We use the video as an excellent multimedia resource, but we need a task. True, false, excellent. Screenshot to get them to predict. Fantastic. Subtitles with gaps. Super. Remember, it's going very, very fast. So Adobe, yeah, but it's really to use PPT, yeah. Do-it-yourself videos. Thank you, Edgeman. Vlog. Good. Multiple choice questions, Margarita. Exactly. Yeah, you don't give the end and ask them to complete in their own ways. Fantastic. All these are fantastic. Remember, they need to be asynchronous. So I post the video onto the platform, and then I don't give the end, so I need to edit the video. Remember, these are not taking place at the same time. So I need to post the video onto the platform and ask students to do the exercises in their own time. So I need to edit the video if I do that. 30 minutes left. Okay. So let's have a look. So you are fantastic. You found all of them and more than I have listed here. So listening comprehension, gap fill activities, multiple choice, open-ended, and of course, as we said, we need to make it interactive and self-correct with software. Why do we need to make it self-correct? If it is asynchronous. Grammar revise it, yeah, to boost self-confidence. Immediate feedback, exactly, Roy, exactly, immediate feedback, that's it. Because if I set it asynchronously for my students to do, let's say that I design all these amazing activities and I put them onto a PDF and I send them, how are they going to get feedback? They might get feedback in the live class, but then my live class is going to turn into a feedback class if I need to give feedback to 10 activities. Do you see what I mean? So they need to be interactive. And designing now the follow-up task after this activity, we can come up with a forum question, a writing prompt, prompt for class or group discussion if we have a synchronous component, and it can also be a group project. So now, what are the challenges here? Again, over to you. We talked about the advantages, and there are so many to use video resources asynchronously. But what are the challenges to create these activities, these tasks for students? Exactly, time. It is an open source LMS. Things can become dated. Thank you. Moodle, I think, is enough. Okay, you're having your own conversation, so you're not answering to me. Okay, so fantastic. Inspiration. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. Exactly. So, as you said, very, very well, time. You need time to create all these activities. Software. And I saw that you had a conversation. What software do you use for asynchronous activities like this? It's, of course, it's a very good question. There are so many options, but they might be expensive. And you also need digital skills to use them. Some of them might be easier than others, but you will always need digital skills. Also, may I add something else? Exactly, technology skills, Elena. May I add something else? Monitoring. How do you monitor if students have done the tasks? How long they spent on the activity, if they got a good score, etc. Not as a test. I'm not talking about testing them, but I want to monitor. Have they done it? How did they do? So how do we do that? And that's why using a platform like Sensations English can be very worthwhile. We can, of course, continue on our own, designing our own materials from YouTube, TED Talks, etc. Free, ready-made videos, whatever the platform, despite the three limitations that I have mentioned. And there might not be even limitations. If you have the time, if you have the software, if you have the technical skills, and if you have the inspiration, someone mentioned inspiration, it can really be very, very creative and rewarding. But of course, very time consuming as well. Or you can use a platform like Sensations English, where the task will only take 5 minutes, the whole task, all from the beginning, choosing, designing the activities, and the follow-up will take 5 minutes to set up, and we will be able to monitor our students' progress and how they're doing as well with a click of a button. I like the variety of topics as well. It is impressive, community, education, culture. So there is something for every taste. And also, as an instructional designer, I would say that what I like is that they are all bite-sized tasks and videos and the tasks. So this helps to reduce cognitive load for students. You can monitor students' performance, and I will show you in a bit. So with a click of a button, whether students have done the tasks and how they did. Differentiation is important. So all are accessible to learners at 5 different levels. So from beginner to advanced, and this enables the teacher to differentiate content effortlessly. Vocabulary and grammar, they're situated in real life and they're not mechanical, you know, out of context, drilling and gap fill exercises. Everything is contextualized, and this is what I like. There is a variety of accents. I like that as well. So it's not just British English or American English, for example. And also, I love that the topics are real world topics and they make effective prompts for follow-up discussions. So it makes for meaningful tasks and topics. And I would say that they are also intentionally designed to widen cultural awareness. So I also like that. So let's have a look then. Let's have a look. So I'm going first of all to show you a video. And I will play a video at B1 level. And what I would like you to think, what tasks or exercises you would design to go with this video at B1. Okay, you can think about the speed, you can think about the vocabulary, the grammar. Yeah, so let's go. Yeah, so I am in the platform right now. And what I'm going to do is maximize this and play.
Wilfredo Negrete cycles from town to town in the Bolivian countryside to teach his students. During the pandemic, teaching children at home has been difficult for parents around the world. But when you have no access to technology and little education, the task becomes impossible. So Negrete took his bike and rode to help his students 3 times a week. A father of 2 himself, Negrete also offers lessons at home. He separates the tables and provides alcohol for people to clean their hands when they arrive. The mothers are delighted with the classes and will walk several kilometers a day so their children can attend.
Okay, here we go. So now, what we can see here is that there are so many activities that you can set for students beforehand. Here, what's the word you hear, prepositions, no space in text, etc., etc. And we will have a look at 2 of them. Let's do the verbs. Okay. I forgot to ask you, what kind of activities would you use this video? What kind of activities would you create to go with this video? Yeah, it is inspirational. Gap fill activities. Thank you, Hand. Fill in the gap, open discussion, snapshot, true, false. Excellent, excellent. So what I have chosen here, but all these activities that you mentioned, you can find them as a task. So B1 level. So what do you think? You need to choose from those. What should I choose? Teach. Okay. So teach, you click and check the answer. Okay, and correct. And the student will go now to the other session. Games and tools. We'll go to the next exercise, the next sentence. So there's so many activities to choose from. And now the question is, how do I, as a teacher, monitor what my students do? Because you can pick this video and you can choose from these activities here, the reading, what's the word you hear, what the verb, what preposition, etc. 2, 4, 5, depending on your students. So how do you monitor? And as I said, with a click of a button, you have access to an admin website, and you can see here students. These are my students here. And if I click on this gradebook, I can see what my student has done. That the verb exercise, for example, 5 to 5, but 4 correct. So I'm going to have a look. I'm going to have a look if I want. And I see here that my student didn't find this word, comprised. So I can say, well done, please write a sentence with comprised so that I make sure that the student follows up and knows. And here I have the teacher presence as well. I'm not saying that you will do that for every single exercise, and it depends on your students. What I'm saying is that you can monitor very closely how your students do. So I'm not going to show you around more because this is what Russell will do in next week. But just to recap, we pick a video or two videos and students watch in their own time, and then you have a bank, but you choose, you don't just let them do whatever. You can do that as well, but I would say it needs to be guided, especially at the beginning. So you pick, let's say, 5 exercises for them to do, and they call the software calls them games. And I think that these students like it very much because they do feel like games. So we saw here is listen to the word. So they read the sentence, as we said, it is contextualized, they listen and they write. They choose the correct preposition. We saw that live. Here there is a listening comprehension exercise. So students have 5 questions of this, depending on what you want. And here is student, the teacher's admin side of things, where you monitor your students' progress. And you can have a close look, as I showed you, but also the software generates these statistics that give you a general idea. Okay, so here my student, for example, their writing is not going very, very well. So perhaps I may want to take a closer look. Now, after this, I just want to figure out one thing, and this is, how do I follow up? How do I follow up? Nazila, the list of activities that you want are, let me show you. Yeah, so these are, and there are more activities than this, not only this. Okay, so how do you follow up? There are 2 things that you can do. I would say there are more than 2 things, but I will talk about 2 things right now. So we need to add some social presence, I would say. So we had a very, very good instructional design, as you saw, the activities and everything is perfect. But what about social presence? What about communication? And I would say that this will be achieved in many ways, but I'm going to propose to suggest 2. So first one, a forum activity, again, asynchronously. So you ask a question for students to discuss in a forum asynchronously on Edmodo, on WhatsApp, whatever your forum is. And the other way to follow up is a collaborative activity. I would say this, the collaborative activity, if you have a synchronous component in the face-to-face classroom or online, put students in breakout rooms to role play, to create a news report, to discuss questions and come up with the challenges, for example, that the teacher is facing, etc. So, okay, so can we come up with one question for a forum, for example? I need your help here. So what question can we ask the teachers? The students, sorry. Yes, it is very good, AB, yes. So what question can we ask? Okay. Yes. So what are the challenges, for example, that the teacher is facing in the forum? And students can discuss the challenges of the teacher. Guessing questions, very good. Students guess. What do you think are the good things about this teaching? Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Yeah. Shine. What similar good deeds you or someone you know have done? That's an amazing question. Yes. In what way is the video inspiring? Thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. So all this, and in the forum, just you need to get students to justify their opinion, to give reasons. Okay, we don't want answers in the forum. You know, that's something that is 2 words, for example. We want them to elaborate a little bit so that we can have some discussion. If you were a teacher, what would you do? Thank you, Sharihan. Very, very, very good. So thank you very much. Yeah, so thank you very much. So here are the references. You can take a picture if you want. And here are my contact details. If you want to follow me or to connect with me. And I'm ready to take your questions if you have any.
Hi, Sophia. So yes, thank you. There's plenty of questions. The first one, which someone asked in the chat, which I really think we ought to cover first, is by embodiment, do you mean being physically present with the students?
Yes, 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 physically present and the ability to feel. Now, the word embodiment in virtual reality, for example, is different because they take advantage of embodiment, but this is, we need different equipment, etc. And embodiment feels like we are there, present. Okay, so embodiment means to feel like you are with the other person in a physical space. Yeah, the ability to see the other person, the body, and feel that the other person is real.
Thank you. So another really key question, yeah. What would a good outline for a pedagogically sound asynchronous lesson be?
Right. Of course, this depends on the level, on so many things, but an outline, then there needs to be beginning, middle, and end. This is very general, but we need to raise curiosity at first. Then we need the students to, whatever we're teaching, is it grammar, is it vocabulary, is it skills? We need them to do something. And we need to make it interactive as well, as I said. So they need to get some feedback from that. And we need to have a follow-up. We need to marry all these presences together. So if it is a lesson, for example, that raises students' curiosity, it asks them to solve problems so that we can have the cognitive presence, and they have some feedback, so we have the teaching presence, and then they interact in a way in a forum, or then if you follow up with a synchronous class and you get students to work in breakout rooms and actually create something or discuss questions, then we have the social presence as well. Have I answered your question?
You certainly answered it for me, Sophia. Thank you.
Okay.
So the next question.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing now because I won't stop sharing. Yes. Okay. I can, yeah, I can't see anyone, but you can see us enlarged. Yeah.
Another question. How can we cater for authenticity in an authentic context, brackets EFL context? question mark?
How can we aim for authenticity? By using authentic materials. Thank you, Suba.
Brilliant, lovely.
Using authentic materials, but of course, using authentic materials is not very easy. We need to design the tasks accordingly, and we need to facilitate where facilitation is needed. For example, all the videos here are authentic, but then the tasks, we need to design them for language learning. As I said at some point during the presentation, it is the task that helps students to develop their language skills. And this is where we come along, because we are ELT specialists. It is not the video. The best video and the best authentic material is not going to facilitate language learning. We use this as a prompt, as a resource, as a very good multimedia resource, but we need to design tasks that will facilitate and promote language learning.
Thank you. And this next question is a really key one as well.
Yeah.
I am really concerned about those students who do not have appropriate devices or internet to access videos. Can they watch videos on a TV or listen to a transcript on the radio? How best to engage these students in asynchronous learning?
So you're not alone to be concerned. We are all concerned, and we have seen the digital divide to instead of narrowing, it's become, you know, wider during the pandemic, exactly because of the reasons you mentioned. We are talking about poor bandwidth and poor devices. However, if students don't have reliable bandwidth and devices, it is asynchronous learning, the learning that answers, you know, solves, or in a way solves our problems. Now, you mentioned equipment, you mentioned computers. If there is no internet at all, then this is a problem. We cannot have asynchronous learning without internet. This is true. But asynchronous learning needs minimal internet if you compare it with synchronous learning, because synchronous learning needs a lot of, you know, strong bandwidth to be able to attend at the same time.
Thank you, Sophia.
Now, if there was another part about the television and about radio, I think you mentioned. Of course, these are fantastic solutions, but the answers are contextualized. I'm not so sure about what context you are referring to. I know that in many countries, they are broadcasting via television and radio, and these are great solutions in a way, but the answer can only be contextualized.
Thank you, Sophia. And this would be a great moment to mention LT SIG, really, which really would be able to explore all those different contexts in which teachers are working. Learning Technologies SIG from IATEFL, which Sophia is the outgoing coordinator of.
Yeah, that's true.
And another question on the same topic, really, which is, does the time allocated for synchronous and asynchronous video lessons differ?
The time differ from the way that we approach it synchronously to the way that we approach it asynchronously. It all differs. I know that this is a very general answer, but it all differs. It all depends to your context. Many times they ask me about the asynchronous. So shall I have 30% asynchronous and 70% synchronous? And the answer is, I don't know. If I don't know your context, I don't know. Usually what you can do synchronously with the video, in my opinion, if you have a platform like this, for example, why would you do it synchronously? why would you do the video synchronously and the exercise asynchronously? They can be done asynchronously, and you can use the time in the classroom for collaborative learning, for other things that cannot be done asynchronously, and we can only do them synchronously, if you know what I mean. Of course, if you want to use a video as a prompt to introduce a topic, that's another matter. But having the students to watch a video and to do interactive exercises in class, why? If we can do them so well with this platform, or if you design your own activities, of course.
Thank you, Sophia. And just on that point, there's a couple of people asking questions about lead-in activities for synchronous face-to-face classes. And I'd just like to remind you, the first webinar in the series with Vicky Salmel covered that in a lot of detail, much more than we'll have time to cover in a question here. So go and get a cup of coffee and go and watch that video of Vicky's webinar. Just one more question though. Regarding the use of technology, and a couple of people are asking about breakout rooms.
Yeah.
And how can I overcome the problem of not having breakout rooms in Google Classroom? And would a breakout room be necessarily an informal space as distinguished from a discussion forum? So that's two different questions there, but put together.
Yeah. So I would say that the breakout rooms, when we teach online synchronously, are very, very important. Very important. If you don't have them because of the platform, and if you cannot get them, if you cannot change platform, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the Google Classroom is not a good, software, but breakout rooms are a very, very important feature in online learning. So if you don't have them, I would say you need to supplement a lot with forums, with asynchronous groups, so that students can meet up in their own time and create something in groups, because we do want this collaborative learning. Online learning with a teacher in the main room is just very teacher-centered. So I wouldn't recommend it. The other question was?
Or is it again? Oh, this is it. Would a breakout room be necessarily an informal space as distinguished from a discussion forum?
It can be a space, it can be whatever we want. I mean, we set the rules. But I would say it should be definitely a collaborative space. Now, what do we mean an informal space? Where students are laid back and can catch up with their classmates? If this is what you mean, yes, all the way. Especially during a pandemic, people are feeling very, very lonely. So do let them catch up. I like informal spaces, and breakout rooms can afford this. Of course, it depends on your rules, and they are not written in stone. If a topic is very, very important, if they are preparing for an exam, for example, and you want them to exchange feedback, you can make it as formal as you want in this particular situation, and then make it more informal again. Collaborative learning is very, very important. People exchanging opinions and ideas, and even catching up, in their mother tongue is absolutely brilliant. Not all the time, of course, but we do need this human touch. Otherwise, online learning can be very robotic, but it is not online learning that has this disadvantage, is how we use it. So it is up to us to make it more human.
And that seems to be the perfect point at which to say thank you so much for your webinar today, and extremely grateful to you, Sophia, for the time and effort that you've spent taking us through that today. Have you got any last points you'd like to make?
No, thank you. I'm just overwhelmed with the messages and everything. Thank you, Mar. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And that's all we have time for. But I'd just like to remind you that next week, Russell Stannard is giving the final webinar in our May webinar series using video in ELT. And that we have got the special offer on Sensations English Teachers Edition for this month, and the special CPD program, which starts for 3 weeks on the 31st of May, and you can sign up to that at sensationsenglish.com/teachers. Now, just to tell you a little about what Russell is doing next week, he's going to be continuing to consider use of digital platforms and tools to support learning using video. Using his skills, he'll guide us on the best decisions to make in operating a platform such as Sensations English. If you've missed any of the webinars so far in the Using Video in ELT series, you can catch up with them on Sensations English Webinars website. And please share the links to them with your colleagues to support their development using video too. If anyone wants to continue to this conversation, I'm happy to stay on here for a few minutes and answer any questions. But except for that, thank you again, Sophia, for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And we look forward to seeing you again soon